Welcome back to the studio, welcome back to the channel. I thought I would do a quick video about just some of the basics of watercolor and of working with it, and just some interesting things that it does that may make a lot of difference in your paintings. I know it did in mine, and knowing these basics will help you fix different problems that can arise in your painting as you're progressing. So let's get started here. Basically the first thing is how wet the paper is. There's also a relation to how wet your brush is and how much pigment you have loaded on your brush, and how you dilute that pigment. And that has effects on what the color is on your painting. As some of these pigments get thinner, they'll actually change color, and we'll try to show you that as we go here. So the first thing I'm going to do here is show you how wet paper makes a difference. So I'm going to start with a very wet paper, and I'm just wetting the paper with a little bit of dirty water here, and I'm just going to leave this section here as is, right up to here. And then the next one, so that's what I call wet paper. I'm going to leave a little bit of white in between these two sections here, and I'm going to wet the second section the same as the first one here. And so what I'm going to call that is damp, and I'm actually going to go over the damp part with a paper towel, kind of like I did in my cloud demo you might have watched before. So clean that up a little bit there. So we've got wet, damp, and dry paper here. So let's see in a wash what we're going to end up with for effects here. So to start the first one here, so I loaded up my brush here. It's a fairly, I would call it medium consistency of cobalt blue. So I'll just start at the top here. I'll try to move my arm out of the way so you can see, probably this way here, and just lightly touch the top here. And you see what this color is doing. It's just going to run its way down the page here into the wet quite quickly and easily. And what it does is it dilutes itself as it goes further down, which is all fine. It depends on the effect that you want. There's a little dry piece of paper here that I missed when I wet the paper. Not a good idea to go over, if you're doing clouds or something, if you go over it right away and you go straight across, it's not going to really affect it much. But if you start going over it over and over again, you're going to end up with all these lines going down. And the drier the paper, the worse that effect's going to be. So from that, we're just going to get a little bit of, get some cat orange, and put a little bit of cat orange in there. Do it fairly strong, stronger than I normally would. And watch it come down the page here as well. Now as it's coming down the page here, because of how wet the paper is, you can see the cat blue come down into the cat orange and kind of change color in there. And the thinner this is, of course, the lighter it's going to be. And then the next one being damp, I'm going to load up my brush the same way here. And I'm going to go across the top here. And you can see what it's doing. It's not really moving across the paper like it was before. And what I'm going to do is make a bead here. The bead is what is going to drive this color downwards here. This my table is tilted, I don't know, maybe at a 20-degree angle. I don't like it tilted too much. I find the colors run down a little too quick. So there's more of a proper bead there. So with this bead here, I can load up my brush again, and I can touch that bead just a little bit into there and work my way down the page like this. And as I work my way down the page, I can add different colors. And again, you don't want to work this too much, but you do want to touch that bead, and as long as you got that bead there, it's going to keep running down the page, and that's basically going to be the energy of your painting. If you come across a building or something that you're painting downwards from sky, you could just cut around it, and this, as long as the paper is fairly dry underneath it. Now this is a little bit more dry than I would like. I dried fairly quickly here, but as long as the paper is dry underneath it, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay right above your roof line, and then you can cut down, you know, on your roof like that. And then you've got basically your roof line is right there. And so how you deal with that, if you want to work this color into this next area, you can do it with pigment, or you can just do it with bare water, is you can wet it here, wet this area here. If I touch the edge, that color's going to come down here. So you can have soft and hard edges there and come down like that. And we can continue down the page with that one. We can put, you know, change the colors a little bit, put a little orange. You can actually go over this right here. And because the paper's still damp, you can kind of work that and basically just erase what you've done here. So as long as it's not dry, you can still change it. So you want to continue on with that bead down here. You want to keep that going and work your way down the page. So it's going to dry differently and mix less. If the paper is damp, it's going to mix less on the paper than if the paper is dry, really wet there. So we'll do the same thing real quick on the dry paper here. Normally for skies I'd use a lot bigger brush than this, but I'm working with fairly small sections here. And especially when you're working with skies, you want to mix enough pigment right before you start your painting, and plan before you put the brush to paper. That way you know kind of what you're doing. You can also just add just water to that bead, and what it's going to do is it's going to radiate down the page here. There we go, like that. And I can do that with the damp as well. And it's this is actually getting fairly dry here now, so that's about it for that. Now what you can also do is, if you've got an area that you want to use several different colors, you can mix different colors on the paper in the same section. So I'm going to actually not even wet this. Let's say you're doing a tree trunk or something like that. So I'm going to just start with a little burnt umber. And I'll work my way from the top here now. Make a bit of a tree trunk like that. And then I'm going to add, let's say, add some cad orange to it. There, I splattered some. It's working right away. You can think, when you're doing this, you think of where your light is coming from. If you want your light coming from the left side, you want to leave the left side a little lighter than the right. And then I'll just add some cobalt blue to the right edge of this, and actually it'll work its way sideways on this page into the other color mix. And there. Now if you don't like that, you don't want to paint an orange tree, it's not that big a deal, because you can go ahead and you can make it all cool colored, like this cad blue that I put in here, and or you can darken it up with even different shades. This is kind of an orange color here that I've got, and it's actually, if you're looking at it now, it's actually turning out not bad. So you put this in here for a little bit of interest. I wouldn't be afraid to go with some fairly strong colors, because this is all going to dry lighter than what it is. And strong colors create interest. Now there's a lot of things you can do with this. You can grab a rigger brush, or you can grab just even the end of your brush here, and if you got little branches that come out here, this is what I've done in some paintings before. You're making a pine tree or something like that, and it's got all these little branches that catch on your coat when you're walking through the forest. You can do that. Now if you do it too much, it'll look just strange, but you can do that. And if you found you've done too much, well, as long as it's still wet, you can kind of soften these. Just soften the edge here. And you see how they're on the right edge, I trapped the light, so wherever the wetness of the paper didn't touch the tree, it stayed with that hard edge. And we can darken that, we can put whatever colors we want. As long as it's not dry, you can still kind of work with it. And even if it is dry, you can go over it. You can splatter a little Quinacridone Gold on it. And if you want to run this all the way down here, like that, and then if you want to paint some greens, some little grasses around the bottom, there you go, you can do that. You can also go and put just clean water and splatter that either with your brush or you know, toothbrush or whatever you have. You see this, how this really grew here into these blooms that kind of look like mushrooms coming out of this tree. If you don't like that, you can just kind of come in there and erase, as long as it's not dry. And you can also go in with your, I've done this before too, if you find that your tree is bleeding into there, you could dry the paper and remove pigment at the same time if you do that, just with your piece of paper towel. So anyways, I just wanted to do this quick little video on this subject, and I hope it helped you out. And please subscribe and like, and I'll be back with more tips fairly soon. Thank you.